Hello summoners and welcome to the only support macro guide that you will ever need. You guys have been asking for a while now, and we're finally here to deliver. We're going to be going over everything that you need to know how to carry your games as a support. Considered a weaker role by most, macro play is easily the most effective way to carry games. Like always, feel free to leave feedback or let us know what you liked in the comments below, and also let us know which role you want to see next. If you like this kind of content, make sure to check out our channel for other videos just like this one. The way this video will be organized is we'll go over champion select, early game, then into mid and late game, while talking about core concept when they're most relevant. But before we get started, make sure to go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements to your rank right now. With their Pro Pass, you get exclusive pro courses, and ProGuides has a feature called InstaPro, which provides instant 24/7 on-demand coaching from the best of the best. Over 100,000 gamers have used InstaPro today and ranked up significantly, so don't miss out on this opportunity and rank up now using the link below. Alright, let's get rolling. Like we've mentioned in our other videos, remember that all of this information is situational. Our hope is that your main takeaway from this video is an improved mindset and a better understanding of macro concepts. From there, figure out what works and what doesn't work for you. While we're going over general guidelines, they're just that. Guidelines. Not everything is going to be 100% correct all of the time. You just need to use your best judgment in every situation based on the information that was given. So first, let's talk about champ select. During champion select, you need to start thinking about all of your lane's matchups, especially your own. Next, think about how your matchup can create opportunities to roam. If you know, for example, that your matchup is going to be farm heavy with little kill pressure, you can attempt to slow push waves and then roam mid. Most importantly, think about how your matchup plays out. Think about when or if you're stronger than your lane opponents, and when you should, instead, avoid fighting them. In spite of what other bot laners might say, you are not tied to your lane. Think about which champions on your team are your win condition and let that affect your decisions as you move forward into the game. Although ambiguous, let's just say that the early game is up until the 14-minute mark when turret plates have fallen. There's a lot on your plate as a support. You're not only a laner, but also a roamer. Since bot lane is a duo lane, you don't always have to be there. It's honestly a balancing act. However, because sometimes you know it's going to be the best just to sit bottom during the entire laning phase, you might need to stay there. How do you know? Well, you need to refer back to your initial win condition during champ select. Maybe you have an Ezreal who's self-sufficient when your top laner is playing Aurelia versus Riven. You can't immediately ditch your marksman and have them 1v2 from the get-go, but you can definitely make attempts to get out of lane as soon as possible to help your buddy out top or mid. One thing to note is that win conditions can change as the game progresses. If you manage to pick up kills during the laning phase, you'll likely want to snowball your lead instead of helping out your team. Odds are, you and your lane partner can become the win condition when fed enough. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about how to play matchups. Anytime that you have a winning matchup, you have 3 ways of creating leads during the early game. All of these stem from one thing: lane control. The ways to take lane control include taking favorable trades and chunking out your opponent, being stronger than your opponent, and having jungle pressure or the illusion of jungle pressure. With control of the lane, you can roam, create freezes to zone CS, or take turret plating. Some champions excel at some, while others excel at others. To put into context, roaming top as Soraka probably won't accomplish as much aside from driving your team bananas. Thresh though, you might as well earn yourself a spot on a montage. So let's expand on this now. Roaming is the elephant in the room. It's time that we addressed it. Everyone wants to be that godlike support that hard smurfs in 1v9s games with their roams. The most reliable and efficient way to roam is using slow pushes and or creating recall timers. With the winning matchup, slow pushing is ridiculously easy. All you have to do is trade anytime your opponent walks up to farm, and if they respect the fact that you're stronger than them, just push the wave in as slowly as you can. Autoing a minion once or twice, and then moving forward to pressure your opponents should allow you to chunk them, kill them, or back off from the wave. Once you've established that slow push, continue to zone them from the wave and build up the wave. After it crashes, you can push for turret plating, recall, or roam. When you roam, you'll walk mid lane or into the enemy's bot side jungle. Note that you can also go for deep wards, or deep ward during a roam. While there may not be a visible impact like roaming for a kill, getting deep wards is a tactic that is much easier to execute and also benefits your entire team. If you don't see the enemy jungler on a deep ward, you can always assume they're on the opposite side of the map. On the other hand, seeing them on a ward deep in the jungle gives you much more time to prepare for the gank and informs your own jungler of counter gank opportunities. If your wave crashes while your jungler is in or near the bot side river, you can move into the enemy jungle together, delve into the jungle and get a deep ward. if you manage to spot out the enemy jungler, engage on them with your numbers advantage. Regardless of whether or not you can snag a kill, you'll be able to zone them off of their camps and give your jungler a chance to steal them. You can do this yourself as well, but be ready to book it when it's not safe to do so. Alternatively, walk mid to look for roams. Since you've crashed a huge wave into the turret, you have an opportunity to gank mid for free and then return back bottom to a wave that's pushing back. To roam top, you either need to base first or transition into a roam from mid. A mid roam is a pretty straightforward way of doing it. You roamed mid and see an opportunity to gank top, so you finish your cross-country race across the entire map. If you want to run straight top from the bottom lane, you should instead try to recall and run there. Immediately after crashing a big wave, you'll likely be able to synchronize a recall with your lane partner or just take one yourself to roam top lane. You will especially want to consider doing this if your lane partner is a self-sufficient champion like Ezreal or Lucian, while the enemy lane may have low kill pressure. One of the strongest early game roams you can make is moving top hand in hand with your lane partner, especially after resets or when you don't value the dragon that is alive. This is something you need to consider doing. While risky, a bot lane double roam top has the potential to create enough momentum to win a game. There are lots of reasons you'd want to take this option. The most important thing to realize about this rotation is you're doing it to trade objectives. Sometimes you'll do it because you're behind and need to get something back, and sometimes it's because it's the play that will net you more. A couple of reasons why you might want to do this is because your top laner is in a really bad matchup, you value Rift Herald more than the dragon, your turret is healthy while the enemy top lane turret is chunked, you have deep vision and are able to counter a gank or split the map, or trading gold favors you because your team scales better. Creating freezes is another viable way to create leads. Note, however, that the end goal of a freeze isn't the freeze itself. The reason that you freeze is to create pressure for your jungler. CS or XP leads are a bonus. By freezing a wave while you're stronger, you either deny your opponent's farm or force them to trade with you. Denying opponent's farm is straightforward. You're getting a lot more farm than them, so you're pulling ahead. Forcing trades, on the other hand, allows you to take lane priority. By trading while you're stronger, you can chunk opponents and either force them to base or transition your freeze into a slow push. Build the wave slowly and call for jungle assistance to dive opponents that you've chunked out. Once the enemy bot lane turret clears the wave, it'll be slow pushing back to you. Guess what? You can freeze the wave and take your opponents on a walk through memory lane. The third option is to attempt to break your turret. Again, you'll likely be using slow pushes and sometimes fast pushes to accomplish this. When we talked about roaming as a support just a minute ago, we talked about how you could roam off of a crashing wave. If your goal is to go for turret plating, you should instead deep ward off of a wave crashing in. Once you've established vision control, you can then safely hit the turret with the confidence that you won't be getting ganked. In cases where you're able to chunk your opponents, it's even easier and you can definitely call for dives. As a secondary goal in any of these situations, you can also use your winning matchup to create pressure for dragon. Anytime you've chunked your opponents or have a wave pushed into the enemy turret, you can look to start that dragon or use dragon to bait your opponents into unfavorable fights via vision denial. Whenever you have a losing matchup, you'll still need to try to cut your losses. That doesn't mean that you should default to playing passive. You can still take advantage of your opponent's mistakes to turn matchups around altogether. In losing matchups, you can attempt to abuse wave control to create leads. Although you shouldn't technically be able to create slow pushes, if your opponents don't understand the value of controlling minion waves, you can try to create slow pushes or minion wave advantages. During windows where you have big minion waves, you can try to poke your opponents or fight them with the help of minions. You can try to pick up kills, hit your power spikes, or find item advantages. You can start playing more aggressively. In other words, play it like a winning matchup when you've earned the right to do so. When your opponents understand their power advantages and don't allow you to abuse the minion wave, you'll need to accept that you're in a losing matchup and try to maximize the amount of farm your lane partner picks up. Respect your opponents when they're stronger, and avoid putting yourself in positions where they can all in or trade with you. When possible, thin waves so that they're slow pushing and create slow pushes yourself after waves crash into your turret. If you can build big waves, it'll make it harder for your opponents to freeze because you can fight them and force them to retreat. In losing matchups that go horribly wrong, your best bet might be to ditch your lane partner and roam somewhere else. Think about which champions are your win conditions and make an attempt to get them ahead. By getting the rest of your team ahead, your lane partner can piggyback off of your team's lead and eventually get you back into the game. As one part of the bot lane duo, note that you play a crucial role in controlling the bot side jungle. It's realistic to say that you should be able to take dragon almost every time you win your lane. Whenever your jungler needs some help early on, you can adjust your playstyle to assist them. You need to push in your lane so that you can potentially collapse on an invade, freeze waves to set up free kills for ganking junglers, and use lane priority to assist them with dragon or place deep wards for them. In the mid game as a support, most people get confused about where to go. Remember, the most important thing in any game of League: objectives. Think about which objective is most important at all times. By default, it's Baron, but it could also be a specific dragon when it suits your team comp. If your lane partner isn't self-sufficient because they're immobile or still scaling, you should try to stick with them. In cases where they go to the wrong lane, do your best to guide them towards the right objectives. With or without them, you really need to start prioritizing vision control heavily. While warding was important during the early game, this is when things get serious, and you need to consider your long-term plans and goals. Which objectives are priority? Where should you place vision? What you'll name your first kid? You know, all the good stuff. As a support like Yuumi or Nami, you'll need to proceed with caution. Move in with your teammates to get vision control, or only push for wards when you're accounted for major threats on the enemy team. Even safer champions like Janna and Pyke need to proceed with caution at times, otherwise they might find themselves in a real blower or miss out from a victory by a single cut. When it's dangerous to push far into the jungle, get some shallow wards. You can catch out flanks or at least walk into the jungle with a little more confidence. Whenever you have teammates nearby, your team takes a lane priority, or your enemies are dead, you'll have opportunities to place deeper vision. Like we mentioned, these are essential and will allow you to spot out your enemies' rotations. With this information in mind, you can prep for your own plays more quickly, set up ambushes for optimal engages, or make a pick. One of the biggest mistakes players make is not understanding the importance of the vision game before an objective spawns. During intense, close games, warding Baron or Infernal Dragon 20 seconds before it spawns isn't going to cut it. The reason for this is that if the enemy team walks in as 5 and sweeps your vision, you're out of luck. You're out of wards and need to face check. That's risky and makes it easy to chalk it all up to unlucky. Ward around an objective a minute or even a minute and a half in advance, base for more wards, and group with your team to fight for lane priority. You'll be glad to have that extra ammo for the ward wars to follow. Team fights are a mess. We all know that. Supports come in all shapes and sizes. You need to be aware of win conditions in fights. Does your team do more damage? Does theirs? Who are priority targets? Should I peel or dive? All of these questions are ones you need to answer before a team fight even begins. Take into account what your champion is strong at. A champion like Alistar needs to look for flanks, while Sona is looking to peel, survive, and provide as much utility as possible. In any game, there'll come a point where lane assignments come into play. There are 3 types of lane assignments, and your role isn't always going to be set in stone. In a 1-3-1, you'll be a part of the group of 3, where your solo laners split push. Anytime the enemy team collapses on either of you or your split push, you need to be fast enough to get vision control or start Baron or Dragon. If the enemy team engages on you, you need to learn to disengage and allow your split pushers to take turrets, prioritizing vision control anytime your team is grouped before splitting up. Help your other teammates maintain priority, do whatever it takes not to die, and also whatever it takes to not let your teammates die. You should be grouping as 4 when one of your solo laners cannot side lane, but one of them can. In these situations, you need to also consider the option of roaming for your split pusher. While the enemy team can start Baron, this doesn't mean it's a bad choice, especially if you've already established deeper vision control, have boots of mobility, and act quickly. You can either set your split pusher up to take over the game, or make it back in time to join your team for a Baron fight. Also, you roaming means that your jungler doesn't have to. Don't quote on us the next time we see a Janna steal Baron, but odds are that junglers have a better chance at stealing Baron than you do. In a 4-1 lane assignment, your goal is to support your split pusher by fighting for priority as a group of 4 and then taking vision control for them. The hard part is avoiding engages by the enemy team. You'll need to position safely, assist your teammates in clearing waves, and prevent engages indirectly with vision control or directly with your abilities. Remember that grouping as 4 means you're helping support your split pusher. Do whatever you can to help them get the inhibitor that they're pushing for. Grouping as 5 is the choice when your team is unable to match a split pusher or simply can't split push effectively. You're looking to take any favorable team fights, engages, picks, or dives while you're grouping with your team. Your team needs to pull the trigger in these situations unless the enemy team is already grouped as 5 as well. Grouping as 5 means you'll force plays and create number advantages. Afterwards, you'll assess which objective is safest and best to take. We covered a lot today, so let's recap. During Champion Select, consider lane matchups and your win conditions. Remember, you're not tied to your lane in spite of stereotypes. Play your lane in any way that lets you play towards the teammates that you need to prioritize. During the early game, first assess whether you have a winning or a losing lane matchup. From there, you need to either create leads or stop the bleeding. Play to create roam timers, freeze your lane, or push for the turret to take over the game. In the later parts of the game, prioritize vision control and rotating to the right objectives. In team fights, consider what role your champion plays, and also think about ways to win fights. Play accordingly to lane assignments, and also consider the option of roaming to help your split pushers. Alright, that's going to conclude our support macro guide. Thank you for watching, and again, you can check out our YouTube channel or ProGuides.com for more content like this. On ProGuides.com, we've partnered with pro players to create courses designed to help you take your game to the next level. So don't miss out on that. Good luck on the Rift, and we will see you all next time.